Welcome to Leominster Access Television and Neighborhood Snapshot. My name is Bob Sardelli. I am a member of the Leominster Historical Commission. Our guest today, Mr. Adolph Tossi, will share some of his memories of growing up in Leominster and some of his quote-unquote very exciting out-of-town memories, as you will learn later in the program. Welcome, Dolphy. Welcome. Let's first ask you, when were you born, Dolphy?
May 3rd, 1922.
May 3rd, 1922.
In Leominster.
In Leominster, and you are a gentleman of 84 years old, and you're doing very well. God bless you. Where were your parents born?
My parents were born in Italy. Both of them were born.
Both of them were born in Italy, and what were their names?
My father was Giovanni Tossi.
Giovanni Tossi.
And my mother was Anna Tossi.
Anna Tossi.
Yeah.
And there were 7 children in the family.
Yep.
And could you name your siblings, please?
Oh, 5 girls and me and my brother. My sister Natalie, Perina, Antonetta, Rosalie, and Esther, and Sandy. And Sandy's younger, Santino, and me, you know.
And yourself. So a large family, which was very common in those days.
Right, yeah.
A little later in the program, as we talk about some of your reminiscences, we're going to see some things that are so different today from way back then. What did your parents do for a living?
Well, my father, he worked in Santa Park, Florida for years. I don't know how many, quite a few years, over 40 years, I think. My mother stayed home and raised the family.
Worked very hard raising the family.
Yes, and
there were, the housework in those days, there weren't all the modern conveniences that
I don't know how my mother did it, because she did a lot of the housework, this, that, the cooking. Oh, that poor woman. Them women had it rough, I'm telling you.
They worked very, very, very hard.
Yeah, they did.
We're talking about Lincoln Terrace. Mm-hmm. That's where you grew up.
Yeah.
And this is the period, you were born in 1922, so as a kid, you grew up during, well, the Depression started in 1929, the stock market crash, so you were a child in the 30s,
yeah,
pre-World War II.
Oh, yeah.
And out in the waiting room, we had our conversation, and one of the things that I asked you, did you feel poor? And what did you tell me?
I didn't feel poor, no, because I was so young and everything. But I think my father must have felt it. But he seemed like he was supporting us all right, though.
But you had enough to eat.
Enough to eat.
The family provided for the family.
Yeah. And he always worked steady, you know. And
steady worker, and there was that very, very close family bond.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it was a happy childhood.
It was, yes.
Very happy times. And I think that's pretty common to people, many people who grew up in the Depression. They didn't know that
were poor.
Were poor.
I know, I didn't. When you were a kid, boy, you had the best time of your life.
What did the Terrace look like then? There are more houses up there now, but...
It made me think of a movie, like, in a way, you know. It wasn't so congested, it was slower, but it was peaceful, it was, I don't know, I liked it.
And I didn't ask you this before, and maybe it's an unfair question to ask you, was the street paved then? Was it hardtop, or was it...
no.
Was still
sand.
Sand, it was dirt.
Dirt road, yeah.
Dirt road then. And at the Terrace now, as you go to the Terrace, you can take a right as you go to the end of the Terrace and go down to Marguerite, goes down the hill and it joins, intersects with Central Street. But in those days it didn't.
Oh, yeah.
It swung around right at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
Because my grandparents owned the house at the end of the Terrace, Patronelli's, and yes, the house is still there.
Yeah.
And Marguerite hadn't gone down that big that dip there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
On the terrace, where did, talking about providing for the family and so on, did you have a garden?
My father always had a small garden in the back of the house. He had tomato plants, peppers. He seemed to manage to squeeze in a few different...
To supplement the...
Yeah, we always had the garden.
And what about animals? Did you raise pigs or anything like that?
Pigs. We had pigs, mostly one pig. We'd start with a little one. I always used to feed them. My mother used to make the mixture, cornmeal or something, and I'd feed them.
And you raised this pig, and then it would come time when the pig would be slaughtered, right?
Yeah. Then I'd cry because in the beginning, my father had a garage, and they'd hang them in the garage, and then when they'd split them, they'd squeal, and then they'd...
And that was difficult for you as a child, because you raised this pig from a little piglet,
that's right.
probably.
It was like my pet.
It was your pet, but...
but it gave us food, you know?
Yeah, right. So you didn't become a vegetarian. Was there a store on Lincoln Terrace that...
Yeah, they were.
No supermarkets then. There weren't great big supermarkets, malls. This was way back in the 20s.
Italian Colonial.
The Italian Colonial.
Everybody used to go there.
And
it was quite a store.
And would you have an account there? Or
yeah, we had an account.
On the tab and...
yeah, my mother used to keep all the slips, and at the end of the year they'd figure out how much you spent, and they'd give you a discount. Or,
the store would give you a discount.
Yeah.
And they would you'd be able to pay on credit.
Right.
Which was so no credit cards though. It was it was just on the cuff, or they would keep track of things.
What a difference.
Things have changed.
Wow.
Other things that have changed. Did you have a telephone? Did your family have a telephone? Do you remember right away?
I don't remember a telephone that much. So.
How about no TV? Of course, it hadn't come in yet.
No.
But what about a radio when you were a kid?
My father. I remember my father buying a console at Waterkent.
At Waterkent Radio.
For my oldest sister when she was 16 years old, and it was a
floor model console, right?
I think they still got it in the shed there. It's not working, but it's...
We had one of those, I remember as a kid at home, and I would be fascinated. It was a floor model, and it had a dial in the front, and I guess it could pick up airplanes or something. I never got it to work, but I'd look around in the back, and there were the tubes, and they would light up. It was, vacuum tubes, I guess. So the early days. Did your family gather around the radio at certain times and listen to any of the old programs? They were new programs then, but do you recall any of that?
Well, not so much to my mother and father, I don't think. But we used to listen to the Shadow and the Green Hornet, probably, or some even older than that. But boy, to us that was quite a thing then.
Yes.
Wow, just to have a radio and listen
to the fact of even having a radio.
Yeah.
You said something very interesting. Your dad, who was a very hard worker, and we're going to, in a moment, we're going to show a picture of you and your dad's name...
Giovanni.
Giovanni, but he...
Yeah, that's right. In America, it's John, but
John.
When he used to work or whenever he had to sign his name, he wanted to keep Giovanni.
Giovanni Tossi.
And he always kept it Giovanni Tossi, you know.
So if we could have this picture shown, it's on the table here. We'll show that in a moment. Chuck Amaral, who's one of the interns here, is going to focus in on... This is a picture of Giovanni Tossi, Dolphy's dad, and Dolphy, but Dolphy isn't a kid then. Dolphy is about 20 years old, and he's about ready to go into the service.
Well, I'm in the service.
He's in the service, so Dolphy is in uniform, but this was taken up at the Terrace. And at the homestead, at the house that is still there, right on the bend of the Terrace, and that's Mr. Giovanni Tossi and Dolphy. And we're going to show another picture of Dolphy in a while, in uniform. Thank you, Chuck.
That was before I went overseas, I think.
Before you went
I think I don't know if I went to engineer mechanic school and gunnery school in Fort Myers. I think it was taken then. That because I was a sergeant, so
at that point.
It was there. It wasn't. I wasn't overseas then.
At that point, no. The other things, you mentioned you and your dad, talking about your dad. He was a very hard worker, and worked at Standard Peroxide for years, providing for the family, worked around the house, the garden, and so on. But on Saturdays, after he finished work, what was a tradition? He would drop everything, and what would he do?
We'd go Saturday, we'd go to the Capitol Theater then.
You and he, and you were how old about? You were a kid then. You were
I was
kid.
a kid.
And he'd drop everything, and you and he would go to the Capitol Theater, which is no longer there. It was on Pleasant Street,
right,
where Marku Roland's barbershop used to be, and now it's Rob's barbershop. I go to Rob's, and I used to go to Roland's.
Oh.
And there was a theater there.
Yeah.
And what types of...
Cowboys,
He loved
mostly
the Cowboys.
cowboy movie. My father liked the cowboy movie, and they always had cereals.
A cereal. You'd come back the next week, and it would always end at just at the point to bring you back next week.
And then they'd have it so that you'd get a set of dishes.
They would
every
have
week
promotions so that you would get a dish to come. The double feature, cartoon, newsreel, you said?
Right, the whole works.
The works.
I forget if it was 10, 25 cents maybe, which was cheap.
Compared to today, now it's whatever at the cinemas, at cinema complexes, whatever
I didn't feel too good when that went out, that Capitol.
The Capitol Theater.
In fact, it went out when they were showing a serial one time, and we never saw the end of it. There was a couple of chapters to go.
You went to school at my alma mater, and we're going to have, in a moment, we're going to have this picture. I'm going to hold this one up to the camera. I'm going to hold this one up for Chuck. Now, Chuck, if you can get in real tight to this. This is first grade, Lincoln School. I went to Lincoln School on Cross Street. And
1928, I'd say.
1928.
I don't know, maybe it's pretty
well,
it's probably too small.
There it is. And I'll bring it down here.
Oh, yeah.
And Dolphy, I'll hold it right back in that position. I think this, Dolphy, am I pointing to you right here?
The second one over.
This one.
Yeah.
This one. This is Dolphy. And out in the waiting room, Dolphy was able to name many of the other kids, his classmates,
more than
in that class.
Yeah. Okay.
And can you name just some of them right now?
Well,
you don't have to name them all, but
Henry Capone's there. Anno Muldoon, we used to call him Pimarini, and Willie Cantaloupe, Muzzy Pearl.
My godfather, Muzzy was
everybody knew Muzzy. Yeah. Look how small he was then. And the girls there, different girls, and my cousins. And in the first row, the second one over was Rena Tony, Emma Machete, and that other girl I know, and there's Claire Bergeron there. And
you remember so many.
I remember a lot.
Your memory is very good, Dolphy. I'm going to put this down, and I'm going to put this down now off to this side. But that's a great picture and something that's precious. I'll bet you've given copies of people have. Now I'll bet that now that this is on LA TV, there'll be some people who may ask you to get that copy, because that happens.
The ones that are still living.
Now that they know it's available. From Lincoln School, you went to Gallagher Junior High, and you started to rub elbows with kids from other sections of the city.
Yeah.
But when you were growing up on the Terrace, did you get out of the Terrace very often?
Are you kidding? I'd get out of the house in the morning, from morning till night. Be out playing baseball here and there. Lundigan Field.
Lundigan Field, where was that?
Lundigan Field was off of Central Street.
Okay.
It's where Miller's plastic place is.
Okay. Oh, I think
in the back there.
Yeah, in that area?
And Mesopharo had a sawmill there.
Okay, there was a sawmill back there.
After we got done playing, though.
Okay.
Before it was just a baseball. We used
to
go there, the Grove.
The Grove, which is
off Lancaster Street.
It was off Lancaster Street. I used to play at the Grove, and now it's condominiums.
I'd make the rounds. I'd go up to Lincoln Woods.
I used to frequent
run around
Lincoln Woods.
There.
Yeah.
I lived on Lincoln Terrace, so I'd go down Miller Street and on Eden Glen and play on the street there, football.
There was a wet spot there, and was there a skate?
Oh yeah, the swamp.
There was a swamp that used to freeze over, and would you skate there?
Oh, that was a big thing for us.
Skate?
We used to skate, play hockey, get a branch of a tree, and one that was shaped like a hockey stick, and we'd get a tomato can and crush it. And that was our puck.
That was the puck,
oh,
and the stick was the branch that was shaped like a hockey stick.
Boy, that was
what about, you told me...
football, would we play football?
Football on Lincoln Terrace. You had, what, a real nice football. What was the football made of?
We used to play on the street, and the women would holler at us, get out and go down the field and play.
You're making too much noise,
right? Yeah, right. So we had like a potato sack. Empty potato burlap
sack.
Roll it up, and put jar washers or cut slits from a tube.
In a tube.
And to hold it together, and that was our football.
And that was the...
And then when we were always playing out there, if it was drizzling, raining a little bit, and that thing started getting wet, and that ever hit you in the chest.
It would really hurt. What about the with all this designer equipment that we're talking about and all this? What about baseball down? Did you play baseball in Asparagus Field?
Yep.
The famous Asparagus Field, Asparagus Field, but it was asparagus actually grew down there because it was sandy soil.
Right.
But the Asparagus Field, what would you play?
Baseball.
Baseball.
Yep. And then they had another one to the as you're going from Lincoln Terrace towards Marguerite. There was a small one there, but we used to go there a lot and play football and baseball there. But the big one was the Speargrass was off to
So this was all before organized activities, but you kids never were at a loss for things to keep you entertained.
Oh, no.
You had always plenty to do. You were playing from...
And I was a left-hander?
Yes. Tell us about that. And this was amazing to me. You are a lefty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, first I'll tell you, I was going to say, I was a lefty, and we didn't have that much equipment, especially for a left-handed glove. I'd get the right-handed glove and put it on, my right hand. A right-hander would use it. It was good for him. I'd put it on my right hand and throw my left, but I was better off with no gloves. So most of the time I'd play with no gloves, because we were just fooling around. We weren't big leaguers, but
just the
we had a lot of fun.
You had a lot of fun. You were very active kid, and you came down, and this is going to be horrendous for the people who are used to. We have access today to the best of medical care. Locally, we can be, if we need other procedures, we go to Boston.
Yeah.
But you had an attack of appendicitis.
Oh, Jesus.
So what happened, Dolphy?
I was sick a few days. I had a fever and everything.
And you were how old about?
9.
9.
9. I'll never forget that. And in them days, my mother and father never... We had country doctors. We'd use them when you're just about dying then. So they held off quite a while, and then I wasn't getting better. So they finally got the country doctor. I think it was Lassert.
Dr. Lassert. And doctors used to make house calls in those days.
He came to the house. Boy, one look at me, and he said, you better get this kid up to the hospital right away. He's got an appendix that's going to rupture. So they got me up there, and when I got up there, the hospital was real small on the hill, and some guy was on they were operating on him, and I was waiting, and my thing burst.
Your appendix burst.
Bursted, and the poison went through me, and then the doctor used to come every day with the wick and put in the,
He'd come to your house. He'd come to your house to treat you, and you survived that.
I survived that.
And then, at about age what, 11?
11 or 12.
You were a very active kid. You were playing. What were you doing up at the Terrace?
Up at the Terrace, I was over my cousin's house and jumping on over railings on a porch. And if you remember the old railings with the sticks.
With the yeah.
And I'm jumping over. You put your hand and you go. I went over the railing. And I landed on the porch. But as I went over, my body went one way, my arm went the other, and my arm is still.
This is your right arm.
My left arm.
Your left arm. Would you? And all right, and it's got a bend in it. Well, you went to the ambulance came and took you to the doctor.
No.
What happened, Dolphy?
No, they didn't know. No.
What happened?
Well, when I got hurt, I was so afraid. I ran in the woods and hid, and I was afraid my father would kill me. You know, he'd get mad and all that because he just. Hollow, but he didn't mean it, you know. So when I went home that evening, I was left-handed. It happened on my left hand. I started trying to eat with my right hand. I'm clumsy. My mother said,
What's the matter with your arm?
And she touched it. I went, ah. But they still didn't take me to doctor or nothing. And
no cast.
No cast, nothing.
Never set.
Never set. If they would have reset it, I would have been all set. It was out of joint, I guess. And it's still out of joint.
So
I had more trouble with that thing growing up.
So the how things have changed. But you did all right. You did very, very well.
Yeah.
Because we're going to move up now to the point where you went to you're getting older now, and the war comes. The war comes, and you. You're thinking about the war is in the news and it's going on. Pearl Harbor came, and you and a pal are thinking about.
Well, I was working at Standard.
You were working at Standards. You're how old? You're at that point.
I must have been 19 then.
19 years old.
Well, yeah.
You're around 19, young man, and very patriotic, and there's all this news about the war.
I was patriotic, but I wasn't. I was going to wait till they came after me.
Right, you were waiting until they were going to draft you. But what happened?
I would have went.
You would have gone, yeah.
But I wasn't going to run into it.
Right.
But my buddy was a dreamer, and every day when after work or something, we ought to join up. You know, Pearl Harbor broke out. It was a few months later. We ought to join up, and we'll join the Air Force. I was the Air Corps then.
The
Army Air Corps.
Right.
He said, we'll join the Army Air Corps and become airplane mechanics. Oh, yeah, I would have liked that.
Sounded like a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, but, you know, I said to him, Vic, you know, they'll probably put us in the infantry instead of, you know. No, I'm going to wait. Well, he kept haunting me. Finally, I gave in one day. I said, all right, on a Monday, we'll go join. I'm sick of listening.
He pestered you until the point where you said, all right, we'll do it. We'll join. So what happened?
I went down on the Monday. I knocked at the door. Monday morning, I went
to get him to go down and enlist.
His mother comes, and as soon as I saw her, and I said, where's Vic? She said, I told him to go to work and forget it and all that. And I said, what? So I'm stuck out there. It's about 10, 11 in the morning. I missed half a day's work and everything. I went and joined alone.
You went and joined alone?
Alone. And was I homesick.
And you were homesick. Because, as you said, you kids,
always
people were close. You were always with people you knew, and so on.
Right.
So you enlisted.
Enlisted.
And you went through the basic training and all the training, and you ended up not as an airplane mechanic.
I did go to mechanic school.
You went to mechanic school.
I did go to mechanic school. I said, oh, things are working out pretty good. They rushed it because the war was hot and heavy, so they were rushing it. Everything was rushed. You know, it was late in 43 and all that.
And I'm going to show this in a moment,
okay.
But go, continue.
Yeah, so I went to school, I graduated. So after you graduate, I said, I'm all set, I'm a mechanic.
You're from the mechanic school.
Right. So they come up there, they check you, you're in good shape, they check you all up and down, give you a good physical. We need airplane gunners.
You're not going to be a mechanic, you're going to be on a plane.
Wait a minute, I said, I just graduated, I'm a mechanic, I went to school. No, we need gunners. So I went to gunners. I ended up at Fort Myers, going to gunnery
in
school.
Fort Myers in Florida. And this is a picture of this handsome young man, and we're going to show this, Chuck, if you can show that, and I'll straighten this out. I'm looking at the monitor here, and this is Dolphy. And Dolphy, you are what rank at this point? You're
Sergeant, Buck Sergeant.
You're a
Buck Sergeant.
Buck Sergeant.
Before I went overseas.
Okay, and there you are as a young man, and then, and I'm going to put this over here, and so you get into Europe. You're over in in Europe.
I flew over. They wanted us over in a hurry, so I flew on a B-17 to Presque Isle and Labrador and Ireland, and then over to England.
And I'm going to show, and if we could get Chuck, if you can get in kind of tight on this picture. This is, this is the B-17. This is the B-17, and this is the crew. And Dolphy, I'll turn this around, I'll put it back in a minute, but Dolphy is right there, and you might...
Yeah.
Okay, Dolphy is, I'm doing this in reverse, but there's Dolphy, and this is a B-17 bomber, and I see a gun turret over here, and I'm going to, that's a bomber crew, and Chuck, I'm going to hold this up, but I'm going to read it. I want you to take a look at this. Dolphy had this. This is the patch, the 8th Air. Dolphy, you explain to me what it is.
Well, it was the 8th Air Force in England. They had different 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Air Force, different parts of the country. The 8th was in England.
8th was in England, and I'm just going to turn this. I'm going to turn this around and read the plaque. Staff Sergeant Adolf Tossi, B-17, 30 missions, European Theater of ETO, European Theater of Operations, and your service was from March 2nd of 1944 to June 6th, 1944.
That's when I flew the missions.
That's when you flew
in 3 months.
During those months, you flew 30 missions. And June 6th, 6th of June, that rings a bell. That's D-Day, the Allied invasion of Normandy. And on D-Day, that was your last mission. And tell me something about your...
It was a decoy mission.
We were, okay, and you were...
We took off at night, the night before, about midnight, I think it was. And all the planes flew individually. No, and don't take no machine gun, no guns, nothing.
Don't?
No, nobody take any machine gun.
In other words, the planes that you were on, that mission, it was a decoy mission.
We just kept flying by. We didn't know. We just flew around the channel.
You had no...
For hours.
Flying around the channel in the dark.
Circles, right.
And they purposely hadn't armed you with weapons or bombs because it was decoy. And then when the light came up...
When you got daylight, we looked into the channel and we see all the ships.
There were like 5,000. There was the invasion force was
Normandy
there.
Was there.
Normandy was there.
So that was my last mission, and I come in, landed, and when I come in, they wanted, I was supposed to put 25 when I went. They raised it to 30.
30 missions, and then you could be mustered out.
Right. And then they wanted to raise it, but we got out of it. My pilot started to squawk, and...
Well, I don't want to give the impression that you didn't see action, because you saw a lot of action, 30 missions, right? And I'm going to read something. First of all, this is one of the things. This is what caliber?
50. What I used to shoot.
You used to shoot these out of the 50. What turret were you on the bomb?
I was in the waist. I was a waist gunner.
Waist gunner.
I was in the window. There was one on the right, and one on the left.
On one of those bubbles?
No, just inside.
Inside, but
like a window, like a regular window. I would one, and the other guy was on the other one.
Okay, so if Chuck could, all right, the 50 caliber, and then I'm going to show something else in a minute, Chuck. All right, and there would be whole belts of these, right, or boxes.
Yeah. And the plane I was on in the beginning was an older model, an F, and every time we used to shoot, you had to open the windows.
So
and it's nice and cool up there, 50, 60 below.
Below
zero.
Atmosphere, and it was cold.
Oh, but then later on I graduated to the G model, which was better. The machine gun was right on the plexiglass.
Okay.
It was closed in. It was nice.
And I'm going to hold this old newspaper article up, and I'm going to read. This is Leominster Daily Enterprise, Leominster, Massachusetts, Thursday, July 6th, 1944. The cost is 3 cents. And there's a little interesting anecdote about how this was found. Dolph, you told me that Mr. Amico
yeah, you got the rugs and
the
carpets.
rugs. They were repairing a house, putting a rug or linoleum in or something, and
it was about 20, 25 years ago.
And they found this
underneath.
They
gave it to my brother, and my brother gave it to me, and I almost threw it away, but
I'm glad you didn't.
I'll just keep it.
And that's one of the things of being on the Historical Commission and being a member of the Historical Society. All of these old things are precious because they're history. So I'm glad that they didn't throw it away. I'm glad they found it, and I'm glad you didn't throw it away. I want to read something from this. It says, U.S. columns, first of all, outflank the Nazis. And then the subheading, 2 Leominster men win military decorations. And I'm going to read this verbatim. Sergeant Tossi, winner of DFC Distinguished Flying Cross honor. Extraordinary achievements in plane combat is recognized. An 8th Army Air Force Bomber Station, England, July 6th. This is 1944. Staff Sergeant Adolph L. Tossi, 22, that's you, Dolphy, of Leominster, Mass., waist gunner on the 8th Army Air Force Flying Fortress, Misfortune, that was the name of the plane, Misfortune, play on words, has been awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. The award was for extraordinary achievement while participating in bombing attacks on targets in Nazi Europe and on coastal installations and communications, paving the way for the Allied invasion of Normandy. That's what you and your service did.
Right.
Sergeant Tossi spent more time over Berlin than any other European city. He went there 5 straight times during the period the 8th Army Air Force was hammering military and industrial installations in the Nazi capital. And they didn't greet you with flowers, did they?
No.
They greeted you with flak and fighters and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a quote from Dolphy. I guess the roughest one I was on was at Brunswick, where we bombed an aircraft plant. The fighters in flak really tore after us, and they kept at it. At Berlin, we usually got fighters and always a lot of flak. But I guess we were pretty lucky. God bless you. You really were. And at this point, I want to make sure so that I don't forget it. Is that this is not the end of the interview. It's coming soon. But I want to shake your hand and thank you because I am able to interview you today, and people on LA TV are able to have the freedom to watch. What we're watching is because of you and so many others like you who defended the freedom we enjoy in this wonderful country, America. So thank you, Dolphy, and to all who have served. You are a genuine, and I'm going to embarrass you now, but you are a genuine war hero. You are a genuine hero. You served, as so many others did.
Did you show them the lucky bastard, the lucky bastard certificate?
I didn't show them that.
Okay, all right, that's all right.
This is, on this, you are lucky. Gunnemus with the name of Staff Sergeant Adolph L. Tossi, who was on this date, achieved the remarkable record of having sallied forth and returned no fewer than 25 times, bearing tons and tons of high explosive, and it says goodwill to the Fuhrer and would-be Fuhrers, through the courtesy of the 8th Bomber Company, who sponsors these programs in the interest of the government of the people, by the people, and for the people.
See, there's a see the thing, the good luck horseshoe? You can hardly see it.
I'm trying.
In the background there, 388.
Oh yes, the good luck horseshoe.
388 bomb group. And
that was your the 388th Bomber Group.
Right.
So we thank you. We can't thank you and so many others enough. And we recognize the war effort it was a team effort. The whole country was involved.
Oh, geez, yeah,
you fellas couldn't have done what you did without the support of people at home. So a genuine World War II effort.
I'm glad I was in the Air Force instead of the infantry.
we thank you thank you so much, Dolphy. The war is over. You eventually get home and you mustered out. You go on with your life. You worked for years. You raised a family. You worked for years at Foster's.
Yeah.
At Foster Grant.
Right.
And you are here now in the studios of LATV. I'm going to go back. So I got you up to the present, to June 30th, 2006. But now I'm going to hack back to your childhood, because we're coming near to the end of the interview. You very fondly, you told me, you remembered your family trips when you were a kid.
Oh, yeah.
The family used to get, and tell us something about that.
Mostly the weekends, Saturday and Sundays. My mother and father had brothers and sisters in Boston, Cambridge, Newton. So we'd make the rounds. We'd go there.
With a car?
With the car.
Your family car?
With the family car.
Okay. Do you remember what kind it was?
Well, I remember you had a Hudson one time, an old Hudson.
Pack up all the kids,
Pack
family.
up the kids, and we'd go there and we'd visit my mother's sister, her brothers, and Newton and all that. And as we made the different rounds, my father would have a few drinks of wine with the, you know.
And he made his own wine too at home. But I mean, that was an Italian tradition.
Right.
Okay. And but it was wonderful to go on those family trips.
Then I'd have to drive home because he had too many.
You would drive home, so you had to be you were older then. And then when you got home.
When we got home on the Sunday evening, I always remember my mother saying, "Oh, home sweet home. No place like home."
No place like home.
Oh, and she was right.
And she was right. And you learned from that. I want you to take out your harmonica now, please.
Jesus.
Okay? Because you're a self-taught musician. And to the audience, I have heard Dolphy play, and I wish I could play half as well as he did. Now, now hold it, Dolph.
No.
Dolphy, now, you tell us about how you learned to play and then how you didn't play for years and then you took it up again.
Well, it was about 15, 16, and a lot of days when we weren't in the mood. Me and my buddies would pick up a harmonica and start fooling around.
Because you made your own music in those days, pretty much.
So we stopped thinking, before you know, we could play. And we'd play cowboy songs then.
Yeah.
You know, mostly cowboy songs. And my buddies were all pretty good. But then, as the years went by, I got away from it. In fact, my sister, my brother-in-law, when I was going into service, they bought me a harmonica. They figured to keep me company. Geez, I got that harmonica, threw it in my barracks bag. I was so homesick. For the 3 years I was in, I never even played. I don't think I played even when I got this shot. But I think when I got out, I fooled around a little bit. But then now, it's been 40, 50 years. I just picked it up a few months ago.
You hadn't played. And where did you get that?
Well, I got my sister had this.
She still had saved it.
Yeah, this thing is, they're good ones. It's made in Germany. It's not a marine band, it's just a good, the blues harp, they call it. 35 cents then, 50 cents, I think.
And that's the harmonica you learned on.
I think so.
And you hadn't played it for like 40 years or so.
Just lately I've been fooling around.
And I wish, I'm going to repeat myself, I wish I could play half as well as you play. Would you, at the end of this interview, two things. I want you to play Home Sweet Home, your rendition of Home Sweet Home, and then since we're very close to Independence Day, July 4th, and you had a great part in maintaining our freedom, I want you to play a patriotic song to conclude the interview. So, Dolphy, I'm going to keep quiet, and I want you to play. And I will serve as your agent if this leads to any any contracts.
Want me to play it now?
Yes, please. Home Sweet Home.
Home Sweet Home. I hope this works.
I wish, as I said, I could play. I wish I could play as well as you. Keep up the playing. And now, to conclude our interview, I want to, at this point, I am going to shake your hand and thank you. And I want to conclude the interview by your playing the patriotic song, which is a very hard one to sing. And we're all wired up here, so we're not going to stand during this song. So the audience at home, if you want to stand, you may. Go ahead, Dolph.
The Star Spangled Banner.
Yes, please. That's beautiful, Dolph.
I don't know.
Land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you very much, Dolph Tassi, Adolf Tassi. Beautiful. We appreciate it very much. As always, I want to thank the folks at the LATV studios, Kyle Pimerini, Jack Sully, Chuck Amaral, who is working one of the cameras today. I thank Jack Sully, Dennis Cormier, Tina, and as always, I want to thank the LATV viewing audience